You finally feel like your life is getting on track, work is flowing, your relationship is stable, you've hit the gym for 2 solid weeks, your bank account isn't bleeding, and you think, wait, am I doing okay? That is exactly when a mysterious force inside you wakes up. Time to ruin everything. Suddenly, you start procrastinating, replying late to messages, missing deadlines, picking fights, or bailing on plans. This is self-sabotage in expert mode. You aren't doing this because you're broken or incapable of being happy. You do it because your brain, the overcautious employee in your head, cares far more about predictability than fulfillment. Its job is to keep you alive, and to your brain, alive means staying in familiar territory. That territory might be stressful, chaotic, or exhausting, but the only thing that matters is avoiding surprises. You've probably spent years living in a specific emotional pattern, a mix of stress, self-doubt, and enough chaos to keep things moving. When you suddenly start making better choices, setting boundaries, or taking care of yourself, it looks like growth on the outside. Internally, though, your brain is panicking. Since when do we live like this? Who approved this character development? It assumes the current peace is just a setup for a massive disaster. To protect you from that unfamiliar quiet, it hits the self-sabotage button. You seem to have an internal ceiling for how much stability or peace you can tolerate before it feels like too much. When you cross that line, peace feels strange. A healthy relationship becomes boring. A good streak at work feels suspicious. Without realizing it, you make small choices that drag you back to baseline. You might get a major compliment at work, and instead of feeling proud, you immediately worry about disappointing them next time. Then you start dropping the ball on the exact tasks you were praised for. Delays, distractions, until things slip, validating your fear that you couldn't keep it up anyway. The same thing happens in relationships. Everything is calm, no games, no mixed signals, no emotional roller coasters. Deep down, that quiet makes you nervous. You might drag up an argument from 3 months ago, test your partner, or overthink entirely normal messages. You inject tension where none existed. When the dynamic inevitably gets heavy, you tell yourself nothing stays good for long. You've directed, produced, and starred in a disaster entirely of your own making. Logically, you want stability, peace, and balance. Emotionally, your body is conditioned to operate in survival mode. When your life drifts away from familiar emergencies, your system gets suspicious. The lack of stress feels fundamentally wrong. The old patterns call you back to what you know, procrastinating, picking the wrong people, saying yes when you want to say no, and avoiding the opportunities that would actually move you forward. Self-sabotage is rarely about rejecting what you want. It usually stems from the fear of what happens if things actually work out. You might fear higher expectations, responsibility, or the vulnerability of trying your absolute best and still failing. To avoid risking that specific kind of pain, you pull the plug early. Ruining it yourself means you stay in control. It means you never have to face the terrifying possibility of giving everything you have and still coming up short. This behavior often traces back to what your nervous system learned to classify as normal. If you grew up around criticism, instability, or emotional distance, tension became your baseline. When you encounter something different, someone who genuinely respects you, or a routine that isn't painful, you don't know how to exist inside it. You say things like, something feels off, when the only thing missing is the chaos you're used to. You can usually spot self-sabotage by watching your reactions immediately following a win. You land a great opportunity, then suddenly feel entirely drained and unmotivated. You hit an important milestone, then reward yourself in ways that drag you backwards. You hold a consistent habit for weeks, break it for a single day, and watch that gap stretch into a month. The cycle goes from progress to discomfort to sabotage to guilt, ending with an internal monologue about how you always ruin things. The social pressure complicates things further. We are told to dream big while simultaneously being warned not to get too full of ourselves. As you start to succeed, a part of you fears rejection from the people around you. You worry about outgrowing your family's dynamic or abandoning the role you always played, the messy one, or the one who never gets it right. Staying stuck often feels like a twisted form of loyalty to your past. Your inner narrative fuels the cycle. Lines like, I'm not disciplined or I'm just inconsistent get repeated until they sound like facts. You might say them as a joke, but your brain treats them as instructions. If you genuinely believe you aren't the kind of person who finishes things, getting close to completing a project threatens your identity. To protect that identity, you abandon the project and tell yourself, that's just who I am. It isn't your personality. It is just a script you memorized. Self-sabotage rarely announces itself with a major dramatic decision. It disguises itself as reasonable choices. I'll start tomorrow, or maybe this isn't the right time. It looks like saying yes when you mean no, or staying in a soul-crushing job because of the stability. These tiny detours don't feel destructive in the moment, but they reliably guide you right back to your comfort zone, which often doubles as an emotional prison. Breaking the cycle doesn't happen through grand declarations about never sabotaging yourself again. Your brain learns through experience, not announcements. The turning point is simply noticing the pattern as it happens, catching the exact moment your excitement turns into procrastination, or your sense of safety warps into a desire to stir up drama. Creating a small pause in that exact moment gives you the space to make a different choice. Instead of accepting the old narrative, ask yourself what you are actually trying to protect yourself from in that moment. You might be fearing failure, success, conflict, or simply being perceived. Naming the fear removes some of its power. You can stop treating yourself like an enemy and recognize that you are just trying to stay safe using outdated strategies. You don't need to force yourself to instantly embrace a better reality. You can expand your tolerance for good things incrementally, like slowly turning up the brightness on a screen. Instead of bailing the second things feel suspiciously good, just stay a bit longer. Sit with the discomfort of being respected, allow people to like you without deflecting the compliment. Keep showing up to a healthy routine after a bad day instead of throwing the entire effort in the trash. Adjusting your internal dialogue matters. Swapping "I always ruin everything" for "I'm learning to notice when I sabotage myself" shifts your perspective from being a hopeless case to being someone actively observing their own patterns. That slight change opens up space for accountability without self-hatred. This process will be uncomfortable. Your brain is used to a messy, chaotic environment. When you start setting boundaries and choosing consistency, it will actively complain about the lack of crisis and emotional fires to put out. It might even try to manufacture drama just to feel normal again. But you know the trick now. You aren't just blindly acting out the story. You can watch the script unfold and say, oh, this is the part where I usually blow things up. Interesting. You don't sabotage yourself out of self-hatred. You do it because you don't trust a consistently better version of your life. Uninterrupted happiness feels suspicious, peace feels fake, and owning your competence feels dangerous. Surviving by lowering expectations, shrinking yourself, and quitting early used to be your protection. Today, it is just a cage. The goal isn't to become perfectly fearless and hyperproductive. The challenge is simultaneously simpler and much harder, refusing to run away when things finally go right. It is choosing not to burn the bridge while you are walking across it. Every time you catch yourself preparing to ruin something good out of habit, you have a chance to do something radical, pause, breathe, and stay. Stay in the good situation. Sit with the discomfort of being okay and let yourself entertain the possibility that you might actually deserve it. The life you want won't arrive in a single massive wave of motivation. It is built in the small, awkward moments where you feel your familiar sabotage script loading and you quietly decide not to press play.